In the brand new Doors Miners, we've only been introduced to 3 new characters, but they play a significant role in the entire game and will undoubtedly appear again in future installments. After completing Miners, many are left wondering what really happened to Grumble, or more specifically, the Queen of Grumbles. You can distinguish her from other creatures by the extra number of tentacles and the scar on her face. These are clearly the distinguishing traits of the Queen, whom we meet at the end and who is immediately devoured by Seek. Or maybe things aren't quite as they seem, and Grumble might have survived Seek's attack. Hey everyone, in this video, I've gathered all the most interesting and realistic theories about what actually happened in the finale and what we can expect in the continuation. So support this video with a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get started. Grumbles are very strange and terrifying creatures. What's most curious is that they're not a singular species. There are several varieties, and there are quite a few Grumbles themselves. I wouldn't even rule out the possibility that Grumble could have defeated Seek if he wanted to, although, as we see in the final scene, he barely puts up a fight. This got me thinking, maybe Seek didn't kill him at all in the end, but rather made him even stronger? But let's take things step by step. We first encounter the Grumbles in room 150 of the mines. It turns out there wasn't just one, but several of them, 5 or 6 to be exact. At first, I, like many others, thought it was a boss, but it turns out there are multiple bosses. Or rather, it's not even a boss at all, it's just a regular monster in its own location. There could be far more of them than we realize because in the same mines, we also encounter these small, nasty entities that drop from the ceiling and laugh at us wildly. Giggles. And it turns out that Giggles are actually Grumbles, just in a smaller form, while the ones we meet in the mines are fully grown adults. It's really terrifying to think that such a tiny creature can grow into such a huge miner. And it turns out they can also move along different walls and ceilings. Well, maybe Grumble is too heavy for that, but the grip of their tentacles is undeniable. If there are so many small Giggles all over the mine, just imagine how many Grumbles there might be in their nest. However, some believe that most of the Giggles die off, which is why we don't encounter that many Grumbles. And judging by their behavior, they seem to enjoy jumping onto players' faces, and Giggles die with a smile on their faces, even though we just knock them off. But that's not all. There's a queen in the nest near the coffins. The guiding light tells us about her, about how the Grumbles guard her. That's why they rush through the corridors like elephants, searching for us so we won't harm their queen. Or maybe they're just hungry? And by the way, we've already seen the queen, if you didn't know. She's the one who greets us at door 150, and it's possible that the queen also appears at the end as one of the main bosses, with whom there may be a fight or an escape sequence. But her epic appearance is interrupted by Seek, and that's when the Grumbles fail to protect their queen. Otherwise, she doesn't differ much from an ordinary Grumble, except perhaps in the size of her tentacles or her body. And thanks to her physical advantages, she can chase the player much faster than her kin. And by the way, what will the Grumbles do next if their queen has been killed or infected? Could a new queen appear? It's still unclear exactly how an ordinary Grumble could become a queen, maybe by giving birth to a lot of Giggles, which would grow into Grumbles. I assume that if the role of the big Grumbles is to protect the queen, then when the queen suddenly dies, a new one should emerge, who would give birth to several small monsters, and one of them would eventually grow up to protect the new queen, and then the remaining Grumbles would protect her as well. Or maybe the queen has purely physical distinctions, like the size of her tentacles. Perhaps queens are only born at certain times, similar to ants. I think the nature of the Grumbles might be somewhat similar, since they live underground in tunnels. And now we're slowly getting to what really happened to the Queen of Grumbles at the end. Many have started speculating that Screech is actually an infected Giggle, and not just infected by anyone, but by Seek, because he's the one who secretes that black goo and is capable of infecting other creatures. However, what exactly happens to the infected creature is still unknown. It seems like it should die because Seek consumes it rather than infecting it, but the theory is quite interesting. Why then is Screech a Giggle? Firstly, they have similar faces. Secondly, they're afraid of light. Thirdly, their attack mechanics are almost identical. They both try to eat our face. But there are also arguments against this theory. First, Giggles don't fly. Second, they have fewer tentacles, only 4, while Screech has 6. But all of this can be countered. We don't exactly know what Seek and his goo are capable of. Maybe it grants certain abilities, like flying and teleporting, which Screech does. And at the same time, a Giggle could grow extra tentacles. After all, adult Grumbles have more tentacles than their young, the Giggles. It's also possible that they could be made entirely out of that goo. So physically, they might still have only 4 tentacles. Grumbles even have 7 or 8 tentacles. This means Giggles could mutate or evolve on their own without any outside help. That's how they grow and mature. This means that Seek could easily speed up the process, but Giggles remain small. The theory is interesting, and it might make sense. However, there have been no official statements from the developers on this matter. Maybe Screech is just a similar monster. We already have Rush and Ambush. They are completely different, but their behavior is somewhat similar. They rush back and forth. There are also other similar entities with the same name and mechanics, Hyde. Essentially, there's Hyde in the hotel and Hyde in the mines. They behave the same, but look different. In the hotel, we don't see Hyde at all, and can only guess what he looks like. But in the mines, he has some form, so different monsters can have different appearances. Even if it's the same monster in different locations, it can look completely different. And let's not forget about similar entities, so Screech and Giggle are probably just entirely different creatures that may have nothing to do with each other. But if the theory about Screech is true and the Queen of Grumble survived at the end, and even became stronger, imagine that now she might be able to fly. This would mean that Seek makes Grumbles and even the small Giggles stronger, while he can only consume the rest, especially ordinary people, like players. Grumbles are special creatures that live in colonies. Essentially, they are the rulers of the mines, and maybe these underground monsters have some kind of immunity? They all can resist, from the smallest to the largest. This means that, in some ways, they are stronger than him. The final scene shows that the monsters are clearly not united in their goal to catch the player. Each has their own motives. Some want to claim your soul, some want to eat you, others just want to kill, and sometimes we just get in their way. They all have different goals, and they might even fight each other for them. Is it possible that in the end, we'll see a battle between Seek and the infected Queen of Grumbles? Or will they join forces and hunt us together? We should consider that she will become much stronger based on the theory we've already discussed. And will her family follow the Queen? If that's the case, Seek doesn't stand much of a chance. Basically, he's done for if his own weapon is used against him. But if not, and the theory turns out to be false, then the Queen of Grumbles is dead. At least the one we see at the end. It can be assumed that if Seek infects someone, he can also control them. But that's not quite the case. Otherwise, he controls Screeches, and there would be at least some hint of that. The fact that Screeches only appear when Seek's eyes show up means that a chase is coming, or that during the chase, the Screeches might help Seek. But Screeches seem to be separate entities, even though they are likely infected by Seek's goo. So it's unlikely that he controls any of them, and all Seek can really do is consume. But with Giggles and Grumbles, it's proven to be much more complicated. In this case, Seek may have sabotaged himself. So what do you think? Is the theory about Seek's goo turning Giggles into Screeches true? What do you think happened to the Queen in the end? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments. Reminder, this is just a fan theory, as the developers themselves have chosen not to comment on these player speculations. It could be because the players were right, and they don't want to spoil the surprise in the next installment, or maybe they're preparing something even bigger. But almost no one doubts that this wasn't our last encounter, and in the future, we'll see either the same Queen Grumble or a new one. Maybe she will want to take revenge on Seek, since according to the second theory, Grumble has cycles of rebirth, and if Seek did indeed absorb the current queen, she will be reborn and seek revenge. In any case, I'm now even more eagerly awaiting the new part of Doors, and will continue to bring you new videos. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't hesitate to hit the like button, and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Things are only going to get more exciting, so see you in the next videos on the channel.